Welcome to Driven, the Unscripted Success podcast, with your hosts, Mike Menino and Nariman Hamden, bringing you insights and stories on achieving personal, professional, and financial success.
Hi, everybody. It's Michael Menino, and welcome to Driven, Unscripted Success podcast. Today on the podcast, we're interviewing professionals who shared their experience with you, the audience, how they got to where they're at today, and zooming from the beautiful island of, Brenda, where are you from?
I'm in Florida.
We're at in Florida.
Cape Coral.
Nice. Beautiful area of Florida.
Yeah.
I used to live in Florida. I absolutely love it. It's a great area. Brenda Christensen is a high-tech 40-year veteran of just about every company I've heard of. But the one she's told me about, she started Goldmine, which is a software company, and she went from Goldmine to cybersecurity. Now she's with Stellar Public Relations. I want to make sure I get that right. Could you do me a quick favor, Brenda, introduce yourself and tell everybody, we've had a nice little conversation of how you got to where you're at today. It's a resume beyond resumes. And then tell them what you're doing right now.
Sure. Well, 40 years ago, I graduated from Michigan State University with a journalism degree. Yay, go green. And I lasted all of a few months. I was a daily newspaper reporter. And I thought, I really want to go on the corporate side. So I was fortunate enough to land a position at a top 10 PR agency that was there in Detroit. And I was all of 21 years old, 22.
Wow.
And I worked on accounts like General Motors Robotics and Domino's Pizza and Uniroyal and just a whole bunch of like Fortune 50 companies, Pratt & Whitney. And it was really great experience because I was one of the first people in technology PR. So I was just
awesome.
Really lucky and fortunate, to be in the right place at the right time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you where'd you go from there? And you started Goldmine.
Right.
It's a software company.
Right. Well, I was in Detroit, and as much as I love Detroit, I knew I had to go to a larger city, Chicago and New York. So I was after warmer weather. So I landed in Los Angeles. Yeah, I can't blame you for that.
No.
And I worked for Wang Laboratories, which was a #2 technology company just beneath IBM. And I reported to John Chambers, who went on to found Cisco. I learned a lot there. And then I took everything I learned and founded a company called Goldmine Software.
Okay. And, what was Goldmine's goal? I like that.
Goldmine was a pioneer in customer relationship management, CRM.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. And we started with $100,000 and we doubled our revenue every year, never took a dime of venture capital. And we sold for $100 million.
Nice.
10 years later. Yeah.
Congratulations. Mm-hmm. Did you retire after that?
I retired briefly for 4 weeks and sitting in my backyard, pretty bored. And I just realized that I had a passion for technology and communicating to the world, its benefits. And so I went back out into the tech world, and I was a corporate officer for the competitor of Goldmine. They brought me on to provide corporate guidance, and I took that company public on several stock exchanges. Yes. And it was a lot of fun. I oversaw investor relations. I did 2 rounds of funding, 10 and 15 million respectively. Just a great time. And then I had a lot of people asking me to come work for them. I can't come work for everyone. So I decided to start my own agency, public relations agency, which is Stellar Public Relations. We're a boutique agency. And we have B2B enterprise clients in artificial intelligence and in cybersecurity. So what's really interesting is I had spent my entire career, I worked with people like Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer and Michael Dell to try to get people online and collaborating and advance humanity through technology. And I was on the phone with my mother one day and I said, why don't you just go online and do that? And she says, well, I'm afraid to go online because I don't want, to get hacked. So I thought, well, I've got to go take care of that. That was my next mission. So I went to Panda Security, which was a top
Mhm.
three AV company, and I launched the first AI-based heuristic antivirus product. And I was very successful there. And I got recruited to go to Secure Computing, which was a division of Honeywell, one of the largest security companies in the world.
Yeah. Mhm.
And they brought me on board to position them for an acquisition. And we were acquired by McAfee Software. And
Nice.
It was at McAfee where I ran worldwide public relations, and I worked with John McAfee. I'm in the McAfee documentary. And I also launched the career of Dmitry Alperovich, who is one of our premier cybersecurity experts in the world. So I've been very fortunate. I've worked hard, but I was
Yes.
very fortunate as well. So I've had the pleasure of working with people like Mark Cuban and Steve Wozniak and Bill Gates and Michael Dell. And yeah, it's been
You
really,
you have one of the most prestigious careers I've heard of. That is absolutely
oh,
awesome.
and I'm just a gal from Detroit who grew up across the street from you. Yeah.
On our off conversation before the podcast, we found out we literally lived in the same town at about the same
Yeah,
time. That is crazy cool.
that is really
She
cool.
told me I told her the street I lived on. She goes, "No, you can't live on that street. I lived on that street." I'm like, "Oh, we both did." Um,
Well, we'll forgive you for going to the rival high school, but
yeah, yeah. That was a kicker. Yeah, we were rival high school. That was fun. The good old
yeah.
days. And then even you I'm really going off script here, but didn't you said you have a friend that was a movie producer and the show that was produced was part of your life.
That's right. So in high school, one of my best friends still is the director Paul Feig. And he kind of started his career by producing and writing a TV series called Freaks and Geeks, and it was based on our high school experience. And I hadn't watched it. I got the box set, I sat down and just, binge watched it. And I realized that one of the scenes had me in it, or, an actress who portrayed me in it. And
Right. Right.
I was, yeah, I got best dressed in high school. So it was the episode
Congratulations.
about being a sharp dresser. And he says, "You see that girl over there? You need to be like her." And she looked exactly like me. She was even wearing the same outfit that I was famous for wearing in
You
high school. Yeah.
you must have made an impression on him that he remembered that 20, 30 years later.
Well, he is kind of known as being a very female-oriented movie director because he directed Bridesmaids, and he also just issued Another Simple Favor. So he has very strong, powerful women as characters in his film, and we all like to say that's because he grew up with us. He grew up with us. We whipped him into shape.
Bridesmaids, yeah, well, you did a great job because Bridesmaids is
Oh,
one of my
thanks.
favorite movies. And my wife's, I'm going to tell my wife that you know the
Yeah.
director. It is such a great movie. Everything in there
I,
is a class act. The raccoons eating the cake, and then the uh, the one girl. I think she made her starring role in that. And she became a Kathleen. Oh God, I can't remember what her name was.
yeah.
Uh, but she really
And
went somewhere after that movie.
yeah, he's just a great guy. Paul's a great guy. And what's really funny is we kind of, after he graduated from high school, I went my way, he went his. And I ended up in Los Angeles. I was there for 25 years, and I was dating a film producer and a film director, and I'm in a lot of films, a lot of horror films, so, and we caught up with each other, and I didn't know he was, 5 miles from me in LA, and I thought, wow, you've done really well. He goes, so have you. So yeah, we're still friends to this day. He's a great guy.
That's awesome. Friends from the hood. Um,
Yeah, right?
in in your companies, there's a lot of in your industry. There's a lot of competition in what you do,
Yes.
and wondering what sets you apart. What did you do to get all the stuff that you did? What is your secret sauce? What did you do to set yourself apart from everybody else in that industry?
I share this with very few people, but there's one
Thank
golden
you.
thread I've noticed between the tech titans, and I'm talking the Mark Cubans, I'm talking, the Bill
Bill Gates.
Gates, they, they are all very intelligent, right? They're
Hmm.
very experienced, they have great education, but they have something which I call an X factor. Their
Okay.
intuition is absolutely on point. They are, I don't know if what you'd want to call it, but I've always gone with my gut, in situations. You can only prepare so much, right? But I'm a big believer in being open to new ideas, working very hard, trying to anticipate the future, because that's also part of what makes technology very competitive. And
Hmm.
also being willing to help others whenever and however I can
Hmm.
is really important. But the golden thread I notice about these people, other than their intelligence being off the scale, is like in Mark Cuban's case, and you watch him on Shark Tank. I really watched that show. I actually worked with him before I watched the show, and I was watching the show, and I saw how you'll see how he narrows his eyes, and he just kind of you can tell what he's doing. He's using his intuition to try to
Really,
yes. And they
there's
just all have a really good instinct. Really good
they,
instinct.
we do apartment complex. We purchase apartment complexes, and I have a coach, and the coach says, he gives a lot of great advice, and he goes, use your intuition. He goes, and if you don't,
Yes.
this is his advice.
Right.
If you don't have it, bring your wife, because women have better intuition than guys. And
That's
he
right.
literally he says that
Right.
every
Yes.
seminar, every conversation he has, because he goes,
Mm-hmm.
guys have this analytical mind, right? They're
Yes, that's
just,
right.
you know what I'm talking about? Like
I
this deal,
do.
on paper looks great, and then my
Yeah.
wife's behind me going, like something
Okay.
about
I have a
something about
great
this situation.
story. I have a great story about
Go for
this.
it. Go for it.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people call it emotional EQ, emotional intelligence, right?
Hmm.
And I agree with you. Women have more of they have more of an intuition in these types of
Intuition,
situations.
without a doubt.
Yes, right. So one of the other co-founders with Goldmine, he was very intuitive too. He was in sales.
Good.
He honed it. He honed it in sales. He came up in sales. You kind of just have to be able to feel your way out and kind of read people very well. We'd
Hmm.
sit in a lobby before an appointment. He's like, I'm not getting a good vibe on here. I'm like, I'm not either. I'm not
Before
getting
he
a good
even went
vibe.
in, before he got any
Before
information.
we even went in, yeah, before we even went in.
Wow.
And we got to the point where we were so successful. This was in the age when Microsoft was just buying up everyone and just crushing their competitors. We were the one company they could not corner. And we were very, very successful. We were the number one market in retail and pushed through the channel. And I met Bill Gates. And when I first met him, I could feel him analyzing me. He was just scanning me and I knew exactly what he was doing. And I just pushed his energy back at him. And then I just took assertive command of the situation. And I know that level of tech titan, that's what they do. So they're reading the situation to see how they can have the advantage. And I wouldn't let him have it. I never let him have it. So we went up to Microsoft headquarters because they couldn't um, compete with us in the market, so they decided to join us. So they were positioning Goldmine. Yeah, it was unheard of. So basically, they were saying Outlook is your starter program, and then if you outgrow Outlook, they're positioning Goldmine as the next step up. So we went up to the headquarters, John and I, and we were meeting with the product team, the Outlook team. They had all their badges turned over. They had some mystery guy on a speakerphone. And they were asking, they couldn't figure out how we were synchronizing data across disparate time zones around the world. So this was proprietary code that we have. And they kept asking John how they did it, how we did it over and over. And thankfully, John didn't know. But I was kicking him under the table. Like, I even had someone escort me to the ladies' room when I had to use the ladies' room, and they stood outside of my stall door. I mean, it
Was
was
it
like
another girl?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
And Microsoft
that's how
headquarters.
close.
So that's how competitive it is. And it's almost like espionage level, KGB, CIA level stuff, just crazy. But that was just a really perfect example of I had a bad vibe as soon as I went in. No one would show who they were. They had their badges
Right.
turned over. Yeah. So I think that, like I said, preparation is great. Read and devour as much information as you can. Leverage every relationship you have. Be open. But it's really that X factor, that intuition,
Yeah.
and it's a business skill that I think you can hone it, right? Like your coach was telling you, use your intuition, bring your wife.
There's that's so true. Like you can, um, my dad said a long time ago, he goes, "You're really good with people." I said,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's cool. That's nice. Thank you." But intuition is, people play a part in the intuition, but intuition is basically seeing the future where you're at now.
Yep.
Like you were sitting in that at that whole was it a hotel or was it a office in the
The
lobby?
office. Yeah. Hmm.
And before you went in, you could feel
Yep.
what was wrong. Me,
Yeah.
I'm more when I would have got it, the what they were trying to do. What they're trying to do is find out your secret sauce. That's what they were trying to
Yes.
do.
That's
And I
right.
would have got it when they turned all the things around and started asking where the questions were all leading to. How's your software? How are you doing this? And I would have got it. That would have been obvious. What you had
Yeah.
was intuition before you get there. That
Right.
really is the secret sauce on a lot of communication on a lot of sales kind of companies. And I think software is a lot of sales too. Correct?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, in cybersecurity, we're talking spy versus spy. I mean, out of
Yeah.
all of technology in cybersecurity, you have to be exceptionally brilliant and exceptionally intuitive,
Right.
right? Because
Hmm.
it's really a matter of, a lot of times life and death, right? So yeah, it's something you can hone. It's definitely something you can hone,
Okay.
and
Well, that leads us to the
an
next
important
question.
part. All
That
right.
leads us to the next question. If someone listening wants to get better at the thing you do, we'll call that your intuition. What do you
Yeah.
suggest they do, and what tips could you give them?
Well, you can kind of play fun games around it, right? Maybe with a friend or a
Hmm.
colleague. You can you can say something like, "I bet you did this, this, and that yesterday, and maybe you're planning to do that tomorrow." And then they'll say, "No, I'm not doing that. I'm doing this." But I think a lot of it is putting aside that left brain, that analytical brain, and just picking up on cues in your environment, right? And body
Yeah.
language,
Hmm.
all of that. And when you start being more open to body cues and body language, environmental arrangements of people's offices and stuff, then it's really interesting. It kind of opens you up to picking up other types of information that's and and what's really interesting is a lot of times you think, oh, that's crazy. I don't, why did that idea pop into my head? Well, I found that if you share that, people will say, how did you know that? Because they've already proven that in psi, there's an energy field around things and objects and people and animals. And you can pick up on things like fear, right? And when
Hmm.
people are anxious and that type of thing. So it's just a matter of, having fun with it and exploring.
I hate to say this, but I know fear well. I'm a fifth degree black belt, and I compete on a professional level in martial arts. And every time
Oh,
I go to one of those competitions,
I have a black belt in judo.
do you?
Yeah, I got a black belt
That's a
in
tough
judo
one.
when I was 12 years old.
Wow. That's judo's a tough one. They don't
Yeah.
horse around over that one.
All right.
They don't horse around on that one.
Yeah.
So here's another question for you. What is one of the biggest challenge you had a great career. and you're still doing it. You're not even, I like what you said. I retired for 4 weeks. I couldn't sit down for 4 weeks to save my life. What is one of the biggest challenges you had to overcome in your career?
Bias and prejudice, I would say. I'm from a totally different era. I mean, when I was 21 years old, I looked like I was 14. And I went into the CEO of Uniroyal's office to interview him for an article I was preparing. Um, and it was about how the production of Uniroyal tires are very challenging. It was for Quality Magazine, and they had just launched just-in-time inventory. So I mean, it was straight out of Central Casting. I walked into his office, he's a big fat man, has a cigar, and he actually said out loud, how is this little girl going to write an article like this? Like, you got to be kidding me, right? And so then I just started talking to him about the technical challenges of producing consistent quality in an end product like a vehicle tire, which there are a lot of variables and this and that and this and that. And I give a lot of credit to my father. My father was a colonel in the Air Force who went to West Point, and he worked on the NASA program. He worked on the Jupiter, Mercury, Apollo missions, and he mentored me. So he kind of raised me like you would a man or a boy. He raised me to believe that I could do anything, I could handle any situation, hold a conversation with anyone at any time. So that was kind of fun, breaking down all those glass ceilings and misconceptions about women and business, and especially in technology. I went to one of the first robotics trade shows when I was the same age, and I was the only woman there out of thousands of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That,
just
that, that
crazy.
industry is heavily dominated by men.
Yeah, just
Engineering.
crazy.
Yep.
Mhm.
The stems. Yeah. I think still today. I mean, you did it back in the day when there was nobody.
Yeah,
Today, I
yeah.
think it's 12% of STEM. 12% of STEM
Is it?
graduates are women.
Wow. That was one of my motivations for achieving power and authority and becoming a board director and a corporate advisor. Is I made it my mission to not only hire on merit, but also hire where people wouldn't necessarily think, right? To hire more
Right.
women, right? Everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, I think everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. And, you know, my mom worked for a period of time and she knocked it out of the park at accounting. And she wasn't, she just learned it because her brother was an accountant. And it's just, I mean, yeah,
Oh.
it's really weird um, it's really weird. I don't know how to put this. When you find your gift,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Like you found your
Yeah.
gift and it's intuitive and that how it helped you out through your entire life. And you got to hone your gift too, right? To get
Yeah.
professional at it.
Yeah, and I would say that a lot of that came from my journalism degree. Thankfully, Michigan
Okay.
State, has one of the toughest journalism programs in the
Yep.
world. And
Hmm.
you go into a situation and interview someone, and you're trying to get to the bottom of a story. You have to figure it out really quickly. You have to figure out who's being honest, who's being dishonest, who's the best source. So that really served me well too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. 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 Well, where it served you in every part of your businesses,
Yeah.
journalism, tech, sales, everything. It really that's we're gonna call this episode the X Factor. That's
I
a good
love
name
it.
for it.
Yeah.
Um, Sounds like things are going really well for you in your businesses. Looking forward to the future, wondering what you do to, you got to where you're at to create passive income and, maybe one day actually retire.
Yeah, never. So this is what we're seeing in the future, right? And this is AI. And I get a lot of, I'm quoted frequently in Fortune magazine and Yahoo Business and Newsweek about how AI is going to change careers. And essentially what's going to happen, and I'm very fortunate that I work with one of the foremost AI futurists in the world, Mr. Kevin Surace, who sits
Okay.
on the board of Rochester Institute of Technology. And he gives a lot of keynotes on AI, and I've learned a lot from him. So essentially, you're going to have personal AI agents that are going to go out and work with other people's AI agents to accomplish tasks. And I'm talking about,
Wow.
yeah, mundane, setting up meetings, um, everything, the spectrum. So the way we're putting a spin on this, and I shouldn't say spin, but if you're not already really super proficient in AI, you're already behind.
Hmm.
I give a lot of webinars and seminars I did 2 years ago on how public relations people can leverage AI. But
Hmm.
it's going to get to the point where you're going to have an AI agent, like a little robot, a mini robot in your computer that's going to go out and do all of those tasks,
Whatever you want it to do.
whatever you want it to do. So it's going to
I'm working on that now.
free you up for that bandwidth where you can do
Hmm.
higher level planning, higher level strategic engagement, that type of thing. It's really
Well,
cool, actually.
can't AI help you with the strategic planning? Because AI is like, I try and use AI as my 180 IQ best friend.
Oh yeah, for sure. Um, and the other part of this is that I believe it's going to open up more ways to leverage your X factor, right?
There you go.
Because, yeah, because if you have a robot or an AI agent doing the menial tasks, the repetitive tasks, even some strategic tasks, that opens you up for more human to human interaction and engagement.
And that's what we're really good at. What I love, everybody's afraid of
Right,
AI and robotics. And I'm like, you guys
right.
don't get it. I've been studying robotics for 40 years.
Have you?
Yeah, I love
Wow.
robotics.
As long as
So,
I've been in it.
well, when my stepdad used to work at GM and he tried to get
Oh,
me into
okay.
FANUC when I went into
Oh,
construction
you're
instead of,
kidding.
and
I
wanted to get
can't
me into
believe this.
FANUC
Yeah,
robotics. If you
yeah.
worked at GM, he designed your payroll system 30 years ago.
Oh,
He
wow.
designed the payroll system. He was
Well,
in,
well, this was my number one client when I first came out of college was General Motors Fanuc. It was GMF Robotics. Yeah.
that's what he was at the
Wow.
time. You know about this better than anybody. At that time, GM just bought out FANUC or partnered
Yes,
him, whatever they did.
that's
And he
right.
was trying
Yeah.
to get me into it because he knew I like mechanical stuff.
Oh,
I'm very
okay.
mechanically inclined. Yeah, but that was great. I would either way. I did really well in construction and real estate, but I think I would have done equally as well in robotics. And I've been watching robots for no joke 40 years, and I get
Right.
disappointed every time because
Yes.
something promising comes out and then it fails. It
Right.
comes out and fails. I thought the answer came about 20 years ago with Osmos.
Hmm.
Honda designed Osmos, and I was like, this is going to be the first robot presented. They did a great
Hmm.
job. They got to a certain point, and then they just ended the program.
Yes. You
That
know
I
why
was
that
like,
is? I,
no, I don't.
I, I'll tell you. Okay, so one of my career positions was working for the IEEE, right?
Mhm.
You know who they are, and they were working on a high speed magnetic rail system in Texas, frictionless, you know, levitational, right? Magnetic high rail, and then they ended it. They just absolutely ended it. Well, my other background as a journalist is as a daily newspaper reporter.
Okay.
And this is the other aspect of technology is it shaped by policy and politics, right?
Yes.
And lobbyists and that type of thing. So I'm very hopeful that through AI, people leveraging AI and seeing the advantages of how it can liberate humanity,
Hmm.
that will all go away because
Hmm.
to me, the future is irrefutable. It's
Hmm.
irrefutable. And I think you'll
Agreed.
hear Sam Altman say these types of things, Elon Musk. It's already, the genie's already out of the bottle, the cat's already out of the bag. Um, so these little roadblocks and policy, I mean, they're all going to go away because they have to. They have to. So we're really
Well,
kind of on
that's
the dawn of a new age of humanity and liberation, actually.
I
It's
agree with that
exciting.
wholeheartedly. Like, I've been saying about, you ask my kids, and I've been talking about robots for 30 years. And I go, and they're like, oh, they're going to take jobs. I go, eventually
Mhm.
they're going to overtake
Yeah.
labor. We won't
Yes,
need to do labor.
that's right. That's right.
I get there's going to be a period where it's going to be tough for people. And then Elon Musk even said it best. He goes, we might even need universal income. And I'm like,
Right.
okay. But eventually, when robots start making robots, there will be no human effort. There will be no effort into it.
Right. Well,
And then you'll just be able to,
when I was 22, I wrote the first press release, and it was called "Robots Building Robots," and that was when
Panic.
Fanuc started building the robots, starting building robots,
Hmm.
and that was exciting. But
Yeah.
I was told that they hired one human in Japan, and he went through the factory at night and pushed a broom. And that was it. That was the only human because there were robots building robots. Yeah, really,
And
really
and
interesting stuff.
eventually we'll have a robot that can clean. But everybody's so terrified of, what about jobs? Don't worry about jobs, because eventually
Yeah.
labor will not be needed. Now, if we get to
Um,
that, do you agree with that statement?
yes, of course, because it's going to elevate humanity, right?
Correct.
I
But
mean,
people are
if you
afraid
think
of it.
about, if you've studied history and you've learned about the agricultural era
Revolution.
and then the industrial revolution, right?
Mhm.
Even back then, the farmers were, there was the cotton gin, right? We can even
Hmm.
go back to the Gutenberg press, right?
Right.
So there's always pluses and minuses, but I'm a I'm an optimist. I'm a humanist, and I believe that humans will always prevail. And
I
we're right on the precipice of a major revolution.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you
Mhm.
wholeheartedly. I've been waiting for this for
Yeah.
10, 15 years. I hope it
Yes,
doesn't come
me
into,
too.
I hope it doesn't turn into, the robots versus humans, because that's going to be a tough call on both
No,
of our parts.
I don't think so. We're They will never have the X factor. And
True.
a good friend of mine, he was one of the first who matriculated from Berkeley's cognitive science program. And he used
Hmm.
to joke and say, I'm studying a subject that can never be answered. And that is, we will never, ever be able to replicate the human brain, ever,
No, no,
ever.
no.
Yeah.
The mind itself is so complex. It's insane.
Yes.
We can map
Yeah.
it, but I don't think we can figure it out.
That's right.
Um, Real quick, uh, here's, thank you very much for your time. And I think I've taken too much of it, but I want to just
Oh,
ask
pleasure.
one of the last questions are, if you could go back with all the knowledge you
Hmm.
have now, back to when you were 21 and you just got out of school, what would you do differently and what would you do the same?
Um, I think that I would have been more assertive in seeking out opportunities with think tanks, people who are futurists, that type
Hmm.
of thing. I kind of found my way into that community, working with people like Steve Wozniak and just
Hmm.
brilliant minds. But I think I would have sought them out earlier. I was
Gotcha.
always in their orbit. I work with some great minds there at General Motors, with some of the
Yeah.
greatest minds. Yeah.
Yes.
But I think I would have been more assertive in doing them. Yeah, seeking those people out. Hmm.
Seek them out earlier. You would have done what you did, but do it earlier.
Yeah, oh yeah, and more aggressively, right?
Yeah.
I
Yep.
work with some brilliant business minds, like John Chambers and Dr. Wang and Mark Cuban. But I think, in the scientific world, I think I would have, I'm proud to call people like Vint Cerf my friend and Steve Wozniak. But I definitely at a younger age, I would have sought those people out more, for sure.
Awesome. I would have, uh, I would have became buddies with Bill Gates.
Yeah,
I love the way his mind works too.
he's a
If you got to
fascinating
experience,
guy.
yeah, yeah, it's one of my favorites. Hey, listen, I can't thank you enough, Brenda. You knocked it out of the park, and your wealth of knowledge is beyond compare. I was wondering if anybody
Oh.
needed to get in touch with you, how would they do it?
Best way is on LinkedIn. I'm a
Okay.
big believer in social media platforms. I launched one, and I think they're really great. Those are going to become agentized too. But
Yeah.
you can find me on LinkedIn, Brenda Christensen.
Okay. Beautiful. All right. Hey, thank you
Yeah.
much for your time, and we'll say goodbye to
Thanks.
everybody. Take care and have
All
a
right.
great day, everybody. If you have any questions, please contact her. She's got a wealth of knowledge in the IT field.
Thanks for listening to Driven, the Unscripted Success Podcast. Want to share your story? Apply to be a guest at drivensuccesspodcast.com/guest.